Okay, let's just dive right in. Picture this. It's late, you can't sleep, and you've got, what, like 17 browser tabs open?
I know that feeling all too well.
Right. And on one tab, you've got WebMD. Another one is some Reddit thread where everyone's arguing. And then you see these like flashy websites.
The ones promising a 90% success rate. Quit smoking in just 1 hour, guaranteed.
Exactly. So you're stuck. You've got the magic wand promise over here. And then you have the medical establishment over there kind of saying, insufficient evidence.
It's incredibly confusing.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We've got a stack of clinical reports, including a huge 2019 Cochrane review. And we're going to try and answer one simple question. Can hypnosis actually help a regular person quit smoking for good?
And I think, maybe more importantly, how does it work? Because when you strip away all the swinging pocket watches and stage show stuff, you're left with some really fascinating neuroscience.
So for this, I'm going to be the skeptic. I'm sticking to the hard numbers, the clinical trials, the stuff where they biochemically verify if you've actually quit.
And I'll provide the context.
Right.
Because really, data without context is just noise. We need to bridge that gap between a sterile lab and, well, real life, where you're stressed and you just want a cigarette.
Okay, so let's get right into the controversy then. The numbers. You Google this stuff and you see 90%, 95% success rates thrown around.
Wild claims, yes.
But then you look at the gold standard, the 2019 Cochrane review. It looked at 14 trials, nearly 2,000 smokers. And it concluded there was no clear advantage over other therapies.
Which is the very polite academic way of saying, meh.
It actually gets a little worse when you look at the really strict trials. I mean, the ones where they test your breath for carbon monoxide to prove you're not cheating. The quit rate at 12 months is around 15 to 16%.
Right. And hearing that, you think, well, why even bother?
Exactly. It's basically the same as nicotine gum or just trying really hard on your own. But, and this is the core of it, you're saying those numbers are misleading.
Oh, highly misleading. It's what I call the two populations problem. In a clinical trial, let's call that population A, they operate on an intention to treat basis.
Meaning they recruit anyone who signs up.
Anyone. They might even pay you to participate. It doesn't matter if you're truly motivated or just doing it because your spouse is nagging you. You sign the form, you're in.
And if you drop out of the study,
You're counted as a failure, a statistical failure. It doesn't matter why you dropped out. Maybe you got bored. Maybe you just decided you like smoking. Doesn't matter. You failed.
okay, so that's the clinical world. What about the other population?
That's population B, the real world. A good ethical hypnotherapist doesn't just take your money. They filter. They weed out people who aren't ready.
Wait, so they'll actually turn away a paying customer?
A good one, absolutely. If someone comes in and says, my wife is making me do this, the practitioner should say, come back when you're ready. B, because, and this is so important, hypnosis is not a magic wand.
It can't make you do something you don't actually want to do.
It cannot. The success rates you see in private practice are so much higher because the clients are self-selected. They've already decided, I am done. They have that internal motivation. The hypnosis is just an amplifier for a decision they've already made.
So that 15% from the trials, that's not the ceiling, it's the floor.
Precisely. It's the baseline for a random group. If you're listening now because you genuinely want to quit, you are already in a different statistical category than the people in those studies.
Okay, that makes sense of the numbers, but what is actually happening, in the brain? We're moving beyond just belief now.
Right.
And into actual biology. We can look at fMRI scans.
This is where it gets really exciting. We can finally see the engine under the hood, so to speak.
There was a 2017 study that found something they call the inhibitory control network. It connects two parts of the brain. Basically, it's the brain's braking system.
It's the part that lets you say no when another part is screaming yes.
And hypnosis seems to stabilize that network. There are even EEG studies showing changes in brainwaves. They call them microstate A and microstate B. When one goes down, cravings go down. It's a measurable physical thing.
And this connects perfectly to the idea of habit versus addiction. We call smoking an addiction. And yes, nicotine is chemically addictive, but behaviorally, it looks much more like a very rigid habit loop.
What's the difference?
Well, with most addictive drugs, the user develops a tolerance. They need more and more over time to get the same effect. The quantity just spirals upwards.
But smokers, they usually plateau, right?
They do. The pack-a-day smoker is a classic example. That's 20 cigarettes.
Mm.
They usually don't go from 1 pack to 3 packs to 5. They stick around that number. Why?
Because it's tied to specific times of the day.
Exactly. It's a timing habit. The cigarette with your morning coffee, the one in the car on the way to work, the I need a 5-minute break cigarette. The trigger is the situation, the context, not just a chemical need.
Right. One of the case studies, a woman named Lisa, said she was fine for weeks, but then she went to a wedding with an open bar. And that social cue, that context, was the trigger.
And the research talks about this automatic reaching behavior. Your hand is in your pocket looking for the pack before your conscious brain has even registered the decision to smoke.
It's like a reflex.
That's the perfect word for it. And that is what hypnosis disrupts. It's not about putting you in a trance. It's about strengthening that braking system you mentioned, that inhibitory control network, so that when the trigger happens, there's a tiny gap, a pause.
A moment where you can actually make a choice instead of just running the old program.
You've got it. It gives you back the control that the habit stole from you. It's not the hypnotist taking control. It's them giving you the tools to take control back yourself.
Which brings up a really good point about how these programs are delivered. In the clinical trials, for scientific consistency, they use what's called a manualized protocol.
Meaning everyone gets the exact same script, read verbatim.
Which is great for research, but
But terrible for therapy. People aren't standardized.
right. And yet you do see some amazing results even then, like the case of David. He was in the hospital for cardiac problems. He had one 90-minute session and he quit for good.
But David is the exception that proves the rule. He had a metaphorical gun to his head. His doctor told him, quit or you die. That provides enormous motivation. For the average person, like Rachel from the studies, one generic session isn't enough.
She needed what they called intervention intensity. She did a full 6-week program with weekly sessions.
And that's the reality for most people. That one-session miracle is a brilliant marketing line. But the data, especially the new 2024 data, shows the best results come from structured programs, usually 6 to 8 weeks.
So why is that structure so important? Why can't you just listen to a recording?
Because a recording doesn't know you. A generic script has no idea that your biggest trigger is driving. Well, for someone else, it's after dinner boredom. A good, real-world program adapts. It's a feedback loop.
So if you go back for week 2 and say you almost slipped up, they can adjust the approach.
Hugely important. They can tailor the tools specifically for your life, your triggers. A recording can't do that. That personalization is why real-world results so often outperform the rigid clinical data. It's the difference between a suit off the rack and one that's been tailored just for you.
I want to talk about something else that really stood out to me. The idea that you're not just quitting smoking, you're getting a whole new toolkit for life.
Ah, yes. This is my favorite part of it all. It's the added value that a patch or a piece of gum simply cannot give you.
They saw it with a subgroup of smokers who also had depression. Usually that group has a much harder time quitting.
Of course. They're often using the cigarettes as a way to self-medicate, to manage their emotional state.
But in the hypnosis study, that group actually had higher quit rates than the non-depressed group.
Isn't that fascinating? But it makes perfect sense. Hypnosis isn't just about smoking. It's about self-regulation. It teaches you how to manage your own internal state. If you just take away the cigarette, you're left with all the raw anxiety and depression.
And that's a recipe for relapse.
Exactly. But hypnosis gives you a replacement tool. You learn self-hypnosis. You learn stress regulation techniques. So that person didn't just stop smoking. They learned a healthier way to manage their emotional state.
The report called it learning a self-verification framework. So you can ask yourself, wait, am I actually craving a cigarette or am I just stressed? Am I bored?
Yes. It's called interoceptive awareness. Being aware of your internal signals. Most smokers lose that. Any feeling of discomfort gets translated by the brain into, I need to smoke. This process retrains you to tell the difference. And that's a skill you can use anywhere.
So let's look at the worst case scenario. Even if you're not one of the 15 or 20% who stay completely smoke-free for a year.
You're still far better off.
The data shows that. Harm reduction. Many people who didn't quit completely still cut their smoking in half.
And think of it this way. Let's say you have a slip-up. You're at that wedding, you have one cigarette.
Yeah.
If you're just using willpower, you'll probably fall into the what the hell effect. Well, I've blown it now. I'm a smoker again. And you buy a pack on the way home.
But with this toolkit,
You have the tools to manage the guilt,
yeah,
to regulate the anxiety. You can say, okay, that was a slip. It was one cigarette. It doesn't define me. And you get right back on track because you know you have the control to do so.
it all comes back to control.
It's all about control. You're not fighting some external chemical demon. You are rewriting an internal habit pattern.
So let's bring this all together for a final verdict. From my side, the skeptic's view, the hard clinical data shows a 15 to 20% success rate. It's on par with medication and cognitive behavioral therapy. It works, but it's not a silver bullet, at least on paper.
And from the context view, that 15% is the absolute floor. That's the number for a group that includes the unmotivated, the dropouts. If you, listening to this, truly want to quit for your own reasons, your odds are likely much, much better.
Especially if you treat it like a process, if you commit to a full program, not just a single magic session.
And if you understand that you are the one doing the work, the hypnotist is a guide, maybe a coach, but you're the one walking the path.
I think that's the most important takeaway. It's not about giving your power away to someone else. It's about learning to build a new operating system for your own mind.
Precisely. And that, I think, is a powerful thought to leave you with. If you try this, you're not just trying to stop smoking. You're learning how to access the control panel of your own brain. You're learning to rewrite automatic behaviors.
And if you can do that for something as ingrained as smoking.
Exactly. What else could you change? What other habits could you take back control of? That's the real potential here. It was never just about the cigarettes.